We finally make it to our main event. There's been grief, tragedy, and frights, all leading to the final showdown between man and spirit, on view for the nation with TV. Welcome to the final Becker Haunted TV Hour, presented by Ghosted in West Virginia. Good evening, obsessors, oppressors, and possessors. It is I, your humble host, not handsome today, Alec McCann, and with me as always,
Julia.
I goosed her. You see that look on her face? She doesn't like me anymore. We are back, and I know you've been patiently waiting. Our new release dates are going to be a toss-up between Wednesday and Thursday. That gives us enough time to get enough material gathered up that we don't hit another slump. I know we always promise you we won't hit a slump, but let's be honest, we hit slumps every time. So we're going to try and mitigate that. Do you think we get to announce the one thing?
Not yet.
Not yet. We have things in the works, but we don't get to announce them yet. With that being said,
only because I'm mean.
Yes, because Julia's mean.
It's very exciting, though.
It is exciting. It is quite exciting. It's fun. I have my cup of coffee. She has her cup of yellow juice.
It's loaded tea. I don't know what this one's called. It's not very good. The other ones are delicious. This one is not my favorite.
So Loaded Tea, if you're ever looking for a sponsor, hit us up. We'll be honest. Now,
only just because it's hibiscus flower. I feel like it's going to give me allergies.
That's fair. If you remember, we left the Beckers at Ed's aunt's house. She had told him to ignore the spirit, don't talk to it at all, and wear a crucifix. And then she gave Maggie... Wait, that's not the right... I'm sorry. That is the name of a fictional character I'm writing. She gave Marsha a copy of The Exorcist.
Yeah.
So that's fun. Now, when they come home, their cat was seemingly missing. They're like, where is this cat? They're looking all over. The last time they had left and come back, all the animals were in the one room. So Ed goes up. He's like, where is it? He goes to the bedroom, and the bedroom window is open. And he's like, oh, no.
Do they have a max?
They have... Well, hold on. So he's like, he runs to the window. He looks out, and there's his cat just laying there on the ground. And he's like, oh, no. Clearly it is dead. It is clearly not alive anymore. So he goes into panic mode and runs down the steps. So he goes down, out the door, goes around the house, finds the cat. He's like, oh my goodness. He is huffing, panic, and the cat just looks at him like, what do you need, bro? What do you need?
What's your problem?
The only thing that was out of place for this cat was that its nose was bleeding, and that was it. And not like it had been bashed, just it was some blood was in its nose.
Like from its nose holes?
Yeah, but it was perfectly fine. It was like,
I've never known an animal to have a nosebleed before.
Me either, but I'm assuming it happens. So he was like, I don't understand how this happened. And in his mind, something must have picked the cat up and then just floated it down to the ground. You know, that's what he thought had happened. So, every time the Beckers would leave their home, Dave and Ellen, their downstairs tenants, if you guys remember, they would hear mayhem come from the empty apartment. Screaming, destruction, Uh, that was the only mode that whatever was in their house knew.
Good times.
Yes. The dog, Holly, was at her wit's end, waking them up every night, barking and growling for their protection. Until one day, it had gotten to be a bit much for her. They let her out into the yard, and she ran, jumped right over the fence, and never came back. Never came back.
She said, "So long, suckers."
Yeah, Ed looked for her for hours, but apparently she was also trained by the CIA because she didn't want to be found, and he didn't.
Well.
So, they did get another dog.
Poor thing.
And him, a day was too much. They let him out.
And he was gone.
Ran, hopped right over the fence, and they didn't find him either. They're like, okay, well, clearly dogs are not allowed.
Right.
So after this, they were like, we don't know what to do. While they're looking for let me just say this. If they had been looking for a dog catcher, we do know one. It's not great, but we do know one. He's cheap and available.
I could do a better job.
Now, Marsha and Ellen were working together to solve the problem. They had found some Ghostbusters, and she told Ed to call them. Now, they found 2 companies, and this is important, only because the first company...
Allergies.
Allergies.
It tastes good, but...
Well, you're itchy. The first one that they called, according to Ed, they were strange. They told the group all they had experienced while they set up. Now, one thing that did impress Ed was the psychic. You know what we're doing here.
I know, you know that I'm not telling the truth. I know, you know, they just don't have any proof. It's the deception, learn how to bend your worst inhibitions, then the psych you out in the end.
Now, the psychic went straight to the bedroom downstairs, and they said a young man had died there, bloody. They started some sort of ritual in the kitchen, which I don't know if they were like, hey, we're going to do this thing, or if they were like, we're going to do this thing. Do you consent? No. Well, that's okay, because you don't actually know what's happening. Right? It just kind of had this kind of vibe of, we're just going to do things because we're doing them, which is never... our resident paranormal investigator will tell you it's never a good idea to go do things with the spiritual world just to do them. I'm gonna put my arm around you just so that I don't tickle you with my arm here.
I know they were.
I knew that was bothering you. I love you.
We can only sit this close if we have long sleeves on.
I know, but it's to fit us. Well, no, because you're out of frame then.
No, I'm not.
I'll do this.
Turn like this.
There we go.
Foot stuff.
This is fine right here, I think. Now,
just don't touch me with your tickle hairs.
I'll try not to. Before we continue this story, I think it is important to tell you that this group assured the families, both David and Ellen and Ed and Marsha, that they guaranteed a clean house, like a cleansed house afterwards. They guaranteed it. So here they were, being ritualistic, when the door to the kitchen swung wide open independently of any external force. And this apparently shocked the group. They're like, oh, now you're there to see a ghost.
Right?
Like,
what do you think is going to happen?
I get, like, when we watch the investigation shows, I understand that when something happens, you're excited. They didn't seem excited based on what the ending of their little jaunt is.
He's chasing flies.
Well, good for him.
Or a ghost.
Now, they were shocked, and they rapidly packed up and less confidently told the households that the problem was solved. And we're like, hey, man, we We worked it, man. We worked it. We did it.
Lies.
Lies. Absolutely. Problem was, as soon as they said, hey, the house is cleansed, this ghost tested its comedy timing by lifting the phone off the receiver, floating it, and then slamming it down. It slammed, so it lifted it off the receiver, carried it all the way to the table, and then slammed it down. And they were like, "Ah, see ya." They left. They were gone.
No more house cleansing for you.
No more house. I would leave them a bad Yelp review. They told me it was cleansed. A phone slammed on the thing, and they were gone. I don't even know they won't take my calls anymore.
Rude.
We've heard that one before. Now, what's interesting is Ed wasn't done. He was like, okay, this kind of gave them an idea that there are people out there that deal with these kind of things. Maybe not these wackadoos, but there are people out there that they can go to for that kind of thing. So he's like, what's the other company? We'll just see how they feel about this thing. And the next company that they called was the Illinois Psychic Research Group. Not before anybody, I'm not going to do the psych thing again. That's a one an episode. Every time a psych shows up, at least once the psych theme song has to play. It's become tradition. Now these people, they seem to have a stronger, more sober mindset when dealing with these things. They were not hippy dippies. They were straightforward. They were professional as talking about portals can be. They were professional.
Yeah.
The Beckers were sent a man named Tom Valentine. Forgot to cross the T there. I'm an idiot. And he conducted interviews of the family that actually felt more like interrogations. Like he was like, what's your name? What's your number? What's your rank? What's your occupation? How many meals a day do you have? Do you wipe with your hand?
Yes.
Do you use a bidet? I need to know what's going on in your family from day to day. Ooh, rhyme up top. Boom. Now, Tom Valentine wanted to know each person deeply, and he had to decide if the Beckers were on the level or if they were, trying to
worth helping.
Well, no, more of like, are you actually telling us a honest truth? You think you're haunted, or are you looking for to become the first Amityville or something like that? Because I don't think at this point Amityville had happened. Was that 70? I think that actually was 70, wasn't it?
I don't remember. When is this one?
This one takes place in 71. And within a year, I think. I don't even think they made it a year in this house. All this stuff, we've had 3 episodes. This covers maybe a year's worth of stuff that happened. So all this happened within a short time frame when you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, I think more has happened in this that points to the demonic than what goes on in Amityville. Like, I know there's a pig person and whatnot, but there's more stuff happening physically that you can see, witness, and all that than there was, because most of the time it was that George was being erratic.
Right.
And
more mental.
Yeah. And this is less mental and more like, okay, all right, well, clearly you're here kind of deal. So he decides, okay, I think you guys are legit. I think you're telling the truth. He even shared some of his theories, but only one at the time became super relevant to Ed as soon as he heard it. Tom said that he had noticed that a large number of hauntings involved seances and or Ouija boards.
Ooh.
Now, what you might find interesting is the study he did, that I'm talking to you here. What you might find interesting is the study that he did to come to this conclusion. He did a study on the possible correlation between mental illness and Ouija board use.
Ooh.
he had gone to a mental institution and found that a sizable portion of the patients experiencing activity exhibited no signs of mental instability until they had messed with Satan's monopoly.
Interesting.
Yes.
Because now I want to research it.
Right? That I thought I was immediately like, oh, Jules is gonna love that aspect.
Let me write this down.
Let it write it down.
Hand me my pen and my little calendar there.
Hold on, ladies and gentlemen.
I have to write it
Big
down.
business. Big business happening here.
If I could spell.
She has problems. I'm gonna go on while you spell, if that's all right.
Okay.
Now, it was.
Look at my spelling of Ouija.
Well, it's right here.
If
you can read cursive.
Spell it right.
Well.
It's alright, I know what it means.
So, it was big. And it was because the previous family seemed riddled with mental illness. Just all over the place. You have several suicides. You have Ben's big stash of porn. You've got the woman that was living, what was her name? Myra, I think it was.
I think so.
Living in the downstairs apartment at the time, dirty as all get out.
That's definitely
like to the
a
point.
mental thing.
But what's weird is she was dirty, but when Ed went into the apartment, he was like, "This is relatively clean. I don't."
We don't have
don't
time to
fully-
clean both. You either have a clean house or a
clean
person.
body. So, did I? Oh, Butch. I was like, did I really spell the B word in my notes? There's no way. No, it's Butch. So, if you remember, the first day of their renovations to this house, Ed and his brother Butch remember Butch kept looking over at the door because he was like, something's looking at me. I don't know what it is, but something's off over there. Ed goes over, opens the thing, and they find that Ouija board leaned up against the wall. And I think they just threw it out. I don't think they played with it. I think they just threw it out.
I think they threw it.
Now,
like frisbee.
Yeah. Be gone, ghost. So Tom had to leave to go grab a crew, but he would return, and he came back with two psychics. One is Barb, and the other was Joseph Deloy. Fancy man. Fancy man. Hereby known as Joe. Because I'm not writing Joseph Deloy like he's some sort of musketeer that I need to know. It's D'Artagnan, Porthos, Amos. I don't know the other one. It's 4 musketeers, but I don't know what the third musketeer is.
I thought there was only 3.
No, there's 3.
And I didn't know their names.
The story is that there are 3 musketeers, and they meet D'Artagnan, who was the son of one of their friends. And he wanted to be a musketeer, but they were disbanded and outlawed. And so he hooks up with these other former musketeers.
And they took him in.
Yes. So, and then he turns on them in Man of the Iron Mask. Like it's...
That's why you don't take good blood.
Well, yeah. But
stay to yourself and be
that
done.
that story was written by Alexander Dumas. A lot of people would probably pronounce his name dumbass because it's spelled D-U-M-A-S. But he was a French writer, I believe, and he wrote 3 Musketeers, Man in the Iron Mask, Count of Monte Cristo, which is an awesome story of revenge. But that's not anything about this. I just don't want to pronounce his name fully, so it's Joe from here on in. Now, the 3 named dude was apparently well known. Oh, okay, yeah. The 3 named dude, Joseph Deloy, was a really well-known psychic in the community. But they weren't as impressive to Ed from the beginning as the first one was, who went immediately to the thing. They were just kind of... He felt that they made obvious observations, and only after they had asked him questions. And he was like, that's not really, I mean, you could deduce all that. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
like, it's, yeah, it's there.
Y'all dumb.
But then that changed when Barb turned to Ed and simply said, bullets. That's weird, if you don't remember the first episode.
Yeah. Barbara.
Now, so Barbie says bullets to him. He immediately is like, what? Have you lost your brain? Wait, can you just turn around and say bullets to people? What's wrong with you? But then he remembered, and now so will you, or you, that he had found a jar of bullets in the rafters of the basement in one of those rooms that he found. And she told Ed that he had found a jar of bullets, and that astounded Ed because he was like, I didn't say that. You know, so she said,
Yeah.
the reason I said bullets is because you found a jar of bullets. And he was like, I didn't tell anybody I found a jar of bullets. It's creepy. Why would you want to find a jar of bullets?
That's creepy.
So Ed, who had told no one that he had found the bullets, was quite impressed at this point. He was like, okay, all right. But that's with Barb that he was impressed. But this did push Ed over the edge of belief. So Joe was super interested in the floating of Gargamel the cat. He was like, okay, you gotta tell me about
That
this.
would be really weird.
He just leapt out the window and landed on the ground and then just laid there. Like, what are we talking about here? Now, after talking to the family, the psychics toured the home again alone, together. And then after an hour, the pair sat down and told the Beckers what they thought. And it appeared that the home was haunted by more than one ghost, and at least one of them was a malicious spirit. They didn't know at the time if it was a human that was angry or if it was an inhuman spirit. They just knew this thing was not nice. So it seemed to be presenting itself as a young man, but Joe sensed its evil nature. He was like, no, there's something off. And I imagine the young man that it was presenting itself as was one of the sons that had died bloody because he was the youngest one, I believe, in the house.
Comes the earthquake.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. So, where am I? Oh, I'm sorry. So, Joe was actually terrified of this ghost. He didn't understand its nature. He didn't think it was human, but he didn't want to say that out loud. He just said it's
a ring trying to cut my arm open.
It's malicious in its intent. Barb then told them that in the garage, a woman had hung herself in the garage. And that was strange to Ed because Walter had told him that the hanging had actually occurred in the porn basement. So Barb was adamant that it happened in the garage, but said it's also possible that the body was moved afterwards, which is creepy. Why are you going to take someone off of the garage and rehang them in the basement?
That is creepy.
So after all this info dumping, Joe wanted to tour the home alone without Barb, just by himself, because he thought it possible that something psychic about the Beckers was drawing in all these spirits. Now, when it was all over and Tommy's group left, the Beckers felt as though they were dealing with real, educated professionals who could possibly help them with this haunting. Joe came back the next week with a Reverend William Dole Davis. He told the Beckers that he was an exorcist, and Joe had come to believe that the young man wasn't a man at all, but rather a dark, non-human entity. So he brought Billy Dole Davis for a fight. Cue the bell. Bing, bing, bing. Now, because the Beckers had no idea what this entailed, Joe walked them through what they needed to do. By the way, get ready for Joe to become an absolute joke to me.
Okay.
I mean, just an absolute joke.
Trying to keep track on when we might need to pause it. They're on Trout Run Road, but at the beginning.
Okay.
Because they will be loud.
They will be loud.
And because I'm sore of them again.
What? They're all bad? Why?
I don't know.
Anyway, we love our boys' girlfriends. They're kind and they're good for them for the most part. They've been here a lot. A lot of people have been here. We're getting
every day someone's here.
Yeah, we're getting tired. As you can tell by how weird our scheduling has been.
Yeah.
But let's keep going. So anyway, he brought Billy Dole Davis for a fight, and because the Beckers had no idea what this entailed, Joe walked them through what they needed to do. First, Ed had to stop talking to and interacting with Ben. He had to just stop talking.
Let's pause.
Let's pause. Ladies and gentlemen.
BRB!
Hey everyone, Will Robson here, comic book artist and writer for Marvel, DC, Image, but more importantly, the creator of Outbreaks. Thanks to you folks, we were able to fund the first volume of Outbreaks, and I'm so happy to say that we're back with issue 4 today with a brand new story arc.
Outbreaks is an ongoing anthology comic comprised of new twists on the zombie genre. Issue 4 starts with our brand new 7-part story, Better Off Dead, a dramedy about a community of intelligent zombies who use the Bible to justify the farming and consumption of human meat. Fan favorite horror artist Alex Cormack will be drawing the entire series along with professional comic book colorist JP Jordan.
I am really excited to bring you this story. It's the best Outbreak story I've ever made, and I hope that you're going to love it as much as I do.
Returning is Dead-Eye Dick, our ongoing backup story in Outbreaks. It's a noir superhero thriller about a World War II veteran who gains incredible but deadly zombie superpowers after an experimental eye transplant goes wrong. Also joining us is Dylan Deco Noir Bryan and Chris Imber, who've handled our Maitre Z intro and outro pages for this issue.
The good news is, this book is pretty much done. I'm happy to say that Speech Comics is now moving towards finished products before launch, so that when the campaigns end, you will get the rewards as fast as humanly possible. We need your help to pay for the creative team and get the book printed and shipped.
There are tons of awesome covers to choose from, like our Spider-Man and Batman homage covers, and there's lots of fun bundles and add-ons that include trading cards, stickers, booster packs, sketches drawn by me, and much more.
So please pledge now, and if you can't pledge, then sharing this on social media really helps get the word out about this book. I cannot thank you guys enough for supporting me in this project. This would not exist without you guys. There would be no Tony Moore on the freaking cover. This is completely because of you guys and the support. So thank you for watching. I really hope that you come and join the Outbreaks Horde.
Thank you for watching our sponsor. And here we go. Not our sponsor, I'm joking. I just threw that in there because it's a good product. So no matter how much it tries, they could not acknowledge this entity. That was the rule. Joe was like, you cannot, no matter what it does, you cannot let it suck you into any kind of interaction. So that night, Ed and Marsha fell asleep to the sounds of arguing coming from the back porch. They had no idea that they were about to become a public spectacle overnight. So often, we make pedo jokes about priests. Very often. Why? Because they lend themselves to those types of jokes. But now I'm going to tell you about a priest that's a creep in another way. Because he's opportunistic. Which I'm fairly certain, if I remember the priest handbook, you're not supposed to have worldly wealth. Like, poverty is one of the things you're supposed to exemplify as a priest. The things that, the church provides, home and possibly transportation and things, and menial living, but you're not going to be like, and I have a Bentley that's mine. Like, that's what I'm saying here. So, this is, it's just grimy. It's grimy. And it doesn't work out for the better. So it's super grimy. Anyway. I don't even know. Before they conducted the exorcism, Joe contacted a Father Wood. And it was real hard for me to keep it copacetic and not make a joke there. But you all make your own jokes there. Father Wood. Now, he told Wood about the Beckers case, and it seems that with no consent from Joe or the Beckers, Wood, who had a radio show, reached out to some of his contacts in NBC. Yeah, grimy. Grimy.
Did you too?
No, it's the chair. Unfortunately, I wish I had a good one. So you can imagine how shocked Ed was when Carol Simpson from NBC, a broadcaster, a news reporter, contacted him and asked him if they could broadcast the exorcism that was going to be performed on the house. Now, she really had to work at it because Ed was like, I'm not looking to be a spectacle. I don't want to be sensationalized.
No.
This whole event has, I mean, my people are trying to leave. Like,
Right.
I'm done with being, I don't want to do any of that. But she eventually persuaded him. She said, listen, we're not going to be sensational. We're not going to turn you into a joke. We just want to show what's going on. We want to show what you're going through, the process that you're going through without making it dramatic. And he's like, all right.
You don't make it dramatic if it's on TV.
Well, somehow they did it because Ed loved it. Like, not in like, oh, give me all the attention, but he was happy with the way the finished product, their interviews and things. He enjoyed the way they were taking him seriously, whereas we'll find out later, he eventually, the family stops doing interviews because they're being turned into a sensation, because they're being turned into a joke. He's like, that's not what NBC did, so no, we're done with that, because NBC impressed upon him that they were going to take it seriously, and they did. And we'll find out how seriously they took it, because it's pretty, they took it pretty seriously. So she persuades him to allow NBC to broadcast the thing. The next day, now I will say NBC was on it. They were like, all right, send
quick
right out to Chicago, please. But the next day, a film crew came to the house to film for a few hours. And they got all the B-roll they needed. They finally sat down to interview the Beckers. The Beckers! So Ed thought the interview was really well done and felt that the story that they were telling wasn't being sensationalized, which was a big deal for him. Now, with the exorcism beginning in a couple of days, the Beckers were expecting a large amount of activity. But as we've actually seen in a lot of these cases, the activity went silent the night before. You had the normal activity during the day, but the night before the exorcism, there was no activity. And yet, the Beckers said they could feel the oppression even harder, as if it was storing up for something.
Don't like that.
So on the day, it was as if at 9 a.m. Thank you, eyes. At 9 a.m., NBC pulled up to the house and began setting everything up, all their equipment and everything. Now, to the Beckers' surprise, a few executives even came to just look at see the whole thing as it's happening. Ed also noticed that the audio engineer seemed terribly anxious, and when asked, he said he was scared about what he was supposed to witness.
I would be. If someone said we're going to an exorcism, no, we ain't. You go all you want. I'm not.
So Joe and Davis, William Dole Davis, by the way, showed up after both, they showed up. And after both of them, holy crap, what is happening to this sentence structure? What was I saying here? Showed up after. Okay, you know what? We're just going to go with it. Joe and Davis showed up, and here's the expected weird thing. you expect Davis to be in minister robes, right? You expect him to be in the exorcism costume. Joe also apparently was a psychic ordained minister. So he also had the robes and the vestments. And they also had a big leather bag. Apparently Joe is just getting it. He's like, I've got every card. Do you need a notary? Bop. Here he is. That's it. Oh man.
A man of many hats.
I just think it's funny. This dude's about to fight these ghosts with the power. Well, what was it? Okay. So Joe and Bill Dole Davis, because I like saying his name 3 times, began to set up for the ritual. And this time, the exorcism would be performed on the property instead of an actual person. In Catholic tradition, this might be called a minor rite of exorcism. You know, it's more of a blessing than it is. I don't know exactly what goes into what they're doing because they do some weird nonsense. But typically, this is thought of as like a minor rite of exorcism because it's being done on a property and not a person. Now, Joe then turned to the NBC crowd and informed them that once the exorcism started, no one could leave no matter what happened. If you're here, you're here. You can't go anywhere. Right then and there, the 4 executives left. They're like, oh, nope, I am busy. They were either leaving, you can't open the door. Give us a second, ladies and gentlemen. We have to open a door for a child. The front door, because he has trouble with sweaty hands and no towels. It is a problem that is unfortunate, but it is something that happens in our world. Dogs do not get excited. You don't need puppy dog eyes. No, we don't need to wag the tails. Here we are.
We should take her for a walk in a little bit. It's beautiful out.
Fat
girl walk.
You want me to get thinner? I can think of a way. Let's get a treadmill. I'll walk inside. Anyway, the 4 executives leave because when you say don't you leave no matter what happens, I'm going to assume something's going to happen that's going to make me want to leave.
Same.
But soon only the news crew and the Beckers remained with the psychic preacher and Davis. William Dole Davis. Oh man, I wish I could figure out how to make him. You think we could make him the resident exorcist when we have problems with salty garlic?
Possibly, yes.
Because she's so salty. Anyway, the anxious sound dude only agreed to stay if he could wear a crucifix and sit on a Bible. Sit. I'm just going to say sitting on the book seems like the wrong thing to do because typically you'd want to read the book as a matter of protection.
Yeah, not
sit on it.
Sit on it.
The words will absorb through my buttocks. Yeah. Oh, man. Why? That seems sacrilegious. Like, that seems like, no, you don't need, don't sit on the Bible.
That's weird.
That's a bad thing to do. Don't put your butthole on the holy word.
Jesus even thinks it's weird.
He's bad. I also think it's funny you've got tiny Jesus while we're telling a demonic story here.
He's here to protect us.
Oh, I see. That little rubber Jesus is going to get us, is he? He's got our back?
Yeah.
So anyway, the preacher, William Dole Davis, told everyone that it wasn't a bad idea for everybody to grab a crucifix. And once they were set up, they began the ritual, and Joe intentionally entered a trance, apparently combining his devil powers with the power of God, which seems wrong. But who am I? I don't know anything about hoodoo voodoo either, so, I mean, who am I to say? But the idea seemed to actually scare Billy Dole Davis because he continually tried to call him out of the trance. He just seemed to be going too deep. And as soon as he went into the trance, a strong bluster of wind smashed the blinds to the window and ripped through the house, trying to remove the sound guy's headphones. Which, if I was the sound guy, I'd be like, why are you doing this to me? Exactly. Why is it me you're targeting?
Right?
My headphones? Come on, man. So, no window was open and no doors were cracked, yet the wind persisted. The deepness of his trance was supposedly comfortable to him as he tried to establish communication with the spirit. You're not supposed to do that as a preacher. I'm just going to say that now. That's a bad idea as a preacher.
Right?
I'm pretty sure, biblically speaking, none of what Joe is doing is allowed. So this is already a weird exorcism. A weird exorcism. So as they went, Ed felt the air change as if something was building, and it set him on edge. He couldn't explain it, but he knew something was not right.
I thought you were going to say set him on fire.
No, set him on fire.
That's dramatic.
The dude was like, "Oh yeah, you gonna exercise me?"
Not today, sir.
However, the opposite actually happened. He turned to ice because it got extremely cold, colder than it had been ever, and more chaotically charged. The air was suffocating in the home as if it was some sort of cold humidity.
Ew, that's the worst. It gets like that here.
Sometimes it does, yeah. It also seemed like a blanket of shadows descended, not the hedgehog, shadows descended on the home. Now, as Joe continued his entranced ritual, he pulled a mirror out of thin air, actually out of his coat, held it up to the spirits, and invited them to look and see that they had no reflection, that they were truly dead. Now,
Like a vampire.
I gotta ask the question, why he's even here at this ritual, if that's what he's doing. Like, Davis came to battle a demon, right? He has his crucifix, he's got the holy water, he's got the Bible, he's reading, and Joe's over here going, no reflection. Yeah, Joe apparently decided it was time to come for Dracula's throat while they're doing this.
Why not?
Suddenly, Joe's voice changes. It's not his voice anymore, and the things he began saying made no sense. He was talking about a picture and then yelling out a combination that no one had any context for. He was just throwing out numbers. Like, no one understood anything, and I don't know that it comes up again. Like the combination thing, I don't know that comes up again. So that's just weird. Just a weird little detail he's throwing out there. So while all this is going on, the sound guy started to hear chirps come through his headphones, but soon the chirps grew louder so that everyone could hear them. And Ed's like, that's weird. He wanders over to the window and looks out, and there's this big tree in his yard, and the tree is full of hundreds of blackbirds. Blackbirds singing in the dead of night. I got that. Yes, I did it. So, he sees all these birds, and it's as if they're there for the show. Like, they're there because they've been called. Joe demanded that the ghosts vacate the home, and while Joe had the confidence of Zeus, Davis was losing it as they went. He was like, oh, don't think this is a terrible idea. I don't want to do exorcisms with you anymore, dude.
No, thank you.
So, Joe's going off the rails of his crazy train, and I gotta wonder if he even knew Joe was going to come dressed as a minister. Like, he showed up and he got in the car and he was like, what's going on here, Joe? What are you doing? This isn't take your friend to work day. I'm not apprenticing you. Like, what are you doing? But after an hour of all this stuff, Joe began to chill out and finally opened his eyes, and it seemed to be over. But Joe did not seem to be glowing from the victory, which is a little concerning. You think, oh, I did it. Davis claimed that the house was clean, but the way both men were acting made Ed skeptical. He thought that they had failed and were too afraid to admit it. So during the exorcism, Ed had set up his own recorder. And after everyone left, he and Marsha listened to the tape, and they heard everything they should have heard and 2 things that they shouldn't have heard. The first was random knocking, stopping and starting all throughout the exorcism. Like it was just a quick, like just intermittent knocking. And then they heard a child crying out for mama, which is creepy. Oh, you went all, I went, ooh. It's like gross. Children? Ugh, disgusting.
How rude.
Let them grow up. Nobody likes children, especially not when they're eternally young. Ugh. Just, ugh. Now, at 5 p.m., Ed was awoken by the sound of a woman crying in his living room. He woke his wife up to see if she could hear the crying, and she did. He grabbed a recorder, but as soon as he hit record, the crying stopped. The exorcism had failed, and Dave's family went ahead with the getting on out. He said, me and Ellen are heading up the road, guys. Now, when Carol Simpson called from NBC to ask what had been going on, and Joey Two Masters called, and I'm saying that because you can't serve two masters, but he went ahead and tried. He called to check on them. Ed lied because he was like, I don't need your help anymore. You didn't do jack.
Right.
He told him that it had worked. He was done trying to get rid of the spirit, and no way he was letting that wackadoo back into his house. I'm like, dude went into a trance, said a bunch of numbers, and left. I don't like it.
Maybe they were coordinates.
And all of a sudden, I'm hearing crying, which is even creepier because crying in the dead of night is not okay. That's just terrible. Now, if you remember from our second episode, he had a visit from his sister April, who was very into the paranormal, who had her own family and all this.
Yeah.
And she had said, if Dave and Ellen ever move out, hit me up, bruh.
I'm moving in.
If they're moving out, I'm moving in. Dun, 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 dun. That wasn't exactly a Billy Joel song because I mixed up two things. But I like Billy Joel. Boom, 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 boom. Anyway, so he started getting the apartment ready for what would eventually be his sister. He was just going to do it with a tenant because he didn't want his sister moving in, because he was like, you got an unhealthy obsession with this. I just talked to the porn stash, but you're gonna mess everything up. However, he started scrubbing the kitchen floor, but he could feel eyes on him. So he turned and saw a woman, the woman from the stairs, which we found out later was actually the homeowner, the previous homeowner who had died. He saw her sitting in the hallway in a wheelchair. She looked away from him and towards the window and then vanished. Ed walked back there, looked out the window, and sure enough, her son, who always walked by the house, was walking by in that moment. It was as if she was yearning him to come back for one last goodbye.
Interesting.
Sad. That one hit me with some sads.
Yeah.
That one hit me with some sads. But there he was, Bob. Now, Bob was the woman's son, and if you remember, he had moved out after a bitter dispute, and they had never seen each other again. Ed would never see the elderly woman again after this incident. Once their exorcism aired, the Beckers became a focal point for interview requests, and they realized after doing a few that aside from NBC, they were being used for entertainment, and they stopped talking about the haunting, but that didn't stop the haunting. April would not leave Ed alone about the apartments, but he was obviously reluctant to let her in. She has her own family. Like this, he's like, you don't understand the situation that's happening in here. You shouldn't be here. But eventually he relents. She said she had to move in because of the ghost, and her husband didn't believe in ghosts. He wasn't concerned. was like, whatever. It's a house. Whatever.
It's a place to live.
Yes. Now, he told his sister not to make the ghosts angry. Don't talk to them. Don't do anything to stir the pot. But, of course, she found the spoon. I did that one for you.
Appreciate it.
She bought a Ouija board to try and talk to the ghosts, which he should have just been like, just go out in the yard and get it. What's wrong? Hold on. Yes. He wiped his mouth on it. The sweater. Because I realized where I started the recording. Back up. So she bought a Ouija board. She's going to talk to the spirits. Which is dumb. And she also, unbeknownst to Ed, started hosting ghost parties.
Nice.
Where they would do seances. The seances, which Ed was like, don't do stuff like that. She was like, I'm gonna do stuff exactly like that. Allison, that's your cue. All right, you hear that? Don't be a April. All right, if you find something scary, run. You leave the people that set you up for that to their fate. You run away. We like you too much. Dip out. Find a safer space, because honestly, if you get out of there soon enough, whatever you accidentally talk to because these people set you up, it's gonna attach to them if you get out of there fast enough, and then they got to deal with it. And I don't actually know if those are the rules.
We'll pretend.
What are the rules?
What are the rules?
I can't help myself sometimes. I am sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I've just created more work for myself, by the way. Every time I do that, I've created more work. And that was just on the fly. I don't like my brain sometimes. Like, it's like, ooh, throw this in. And then I have to, because it's funny to me. Oh, I'm also sweating. I don't know what's going on over here.
I'm cold.
Not me.
You've taken all my heat because you keep getting so close.
I'm excited. I'm not a Smallville villain who can just suck the heat out of you. Oh.
Hairs.
Right. So, Ed actually started working a second job because of the fact that he was ready to get out of the house. He was ready to leave the property to someone else. He was like, no! He was like, I need to get out. I said that too much. So he was so terribly tired of the haunting that just as her brother... I'm sorry. What? He was so terribly... Oh, there's a period at the end of that sentence. Yes. So he was so terribly...
I see it.
Yes, tiny little period. He was tired of the haunting, but just as her brother had done, April started talking to Ben through the board. Because unlike Ed... Porn Ben. And unlike Ed, Ben was talking back. He would even perform tricks for her at her parties, like hitting keys on the piano. I know what you were thinking.
That's so weird.
Ghost jizz through the air.
Ew.
Well, it's Porn Ben. He's been locked away with all the doors. Don't stop him from being able to flip through those pages.
Gross.
He was probably like, what you got there, Ed? Oh, it's a good addition. Don't mind if I do. Claiming Ed as his own. And Ed can't even tell that he's got ghost ectoplasm all over his shoulder. He's just like, that was a fun vintage. I wonder if it said vintage, didn't it? Oh my God. What is vintage? That is such a creepy thing to me. How do you have vintage porn mags? Because I'm pretty sure at a certain point, porn was illegal.
I don't know.
Vintage? What's vintage then? Oh, man. Oh, the mystery of Ben just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
But I don't want to look it up either.
Right, because you'd be like, it's on our computer now. Vintage porn. So...
I'll just have to ask someone.
Right. Let's find an old person and be like, yo, what was vintage porn back in your day? You were born in the 70s. What was vintage porn for you? So anyway, Ben starts talking back. He's doing tricks. They're forming a really strange bond. He told her that his real name wasn't Ben, it was Henry. Now that's important if you remember our second episode. If you don't remember our second episode,
Trying to think.
you won't get it, but we will fill in the blank here. Now, this is the entity that worried Joseph, that they had tried to exorcise. The knowledge of this entity's supposed name seemed to bring with it a change in April. As soon as she knew its name was Henry, she changed. She would scream at the kids and command her husband to beat them, not caring that the Beckers could hear everything going on upstairs. Ed even got involved a couple of times. She'd tear into her man viciously, but he always made excuses for it. He was always like, yeah, she's just going through something. Marsha snitched on her sister-in-law to Ed about the Ouija board, and that she was talking to a ghost named Henry. And this troubled Ed because he had never told his wife about the name Henry, about the boy Henry that had died mysteriously. He'd never said a word. So he rushes into the apartment, madder than a hornet in a bee's nest. He found the board, smashed it right in front of his sister to pieces.
Good.
To pieces!
That's what you get.
And his sister's reaction was not there. She did not have a reaction, except to say that she saw a face show up right next to his when he smashed the board. She said, I think you're possessed now.
Ooh.
So Ed went to Jim, her husband, and said, y'all gotta move out. I'm not kicking you out. This isn't like an eviction notice. If you choose to stay, you choose to stay, but you really should choose to move.
You got to go.
You really should choose to move, because what's going on, it's not my sister, and I know now that it's affecting her in a way that has changed who she is. So Jim began telling Ed everything that they had experienced in the home, and it matched nearly everything that Dave and Ellen had experienced. However, he blamed it all on April's weird ghost party friends. He told Ed that his wife was just going through changes, and those changes were getting more and more bizarre. Like, Ed coming home with no one else in his kitchen but his sister, who seemingly broke in to chain smoke in his kitchen. And he would find her doing that several different times. He's a weirdo.
He is quite strange. I was like, what is that noise that I keep hearing?
It's Tim sucking down chocolate milk. April told Marsha that she knew she was always being watched by something. If she slept, she would have nightmares about hooded dark figures. Malevolent voices were telling her to end her own life. The piano would wake her up playing one key at a time, like what she used to have it do during parties, but this felt more malevolent. It made her feel as though she was a mouse being pursued by an angry, revenge-seeking cat. Jerry. Tom's the cat. I wish someone would smack me for how dumb that was. So real. It was so real. That was such a real reaction, too. They're gonna be like, how often does she raise her hand to
I got
him?
you, twin.
So anyway, this cat wasn't keeping its attention on her. She often would hear her she heard her oldest son in his room talking to absolutely no one. When April would try and discipline this son for whatever reason, we're not saying that she's a good parent at this point. She's gone downhill. But whenever she would try and discipline the child, he would threaten to tell Henry on her. And this still wasn't enough to get her to leave.
I'd be like, tell him.
What's he gonna do? Make me beat you because I'm a bad parent?
Right?
Ooh.
We'll call him up now.
Yeah, I yelled at your dad to whoop you children within an inch of your life. You think a demon's gonna stop me? Ugh. So she began to be grabbed and also started seeing Henry just out and about.
Ew.
At least seeing what he wanted her to see, which was just a young man. She soon realized the mistake she had made by opening communication. Ed, on the flip side, finally had worked up enough money to buy a second home. His plan was to move his family and his sister's family in and leave the haunting behind. But every time the Beckers felt chaos, every time the Beckers left, chaos would ensue. Sinks would be turned on, violent bashing could be heard, cats would be tossed out windows only to be found lying on the grass with bloody noses, but otherwise fine. It was complete pandemonium, except for the gentle laying of a cat. That apparently was not pandemonium. That was like, oh, cute cat. I hope it picked it up. Oh, cute cat. So it was not an unjustifiable thing to burn the house down in Ed's mind. He was like, I could just set this place ablaze. Nobody'd have to ever worry about it ever again. And he had considered it often. Ed knew how dangerous this temptation was. So the Beckers soon moved, but not April's family. No, they stayed, which was the beginning of the end for April. Ed worked on getting new tenants for his old apartment, unaware of the deep turmoil April and her family were going through. I must pause this for a second. She's got a poot. Now, while I do have some empathy for Jim and her kids, April is getting what she asked for. Exactly. She kept messing with it after her brother had told her. It's not like she wasn't aware of the situation. NBC did a story on them. It's not like she wasn't aware of the exorcism and all that type of stuff.
And she was warned.
Yeah, and she was warned. So she's getting exactly what she asked for. I wouldn't have sympathy for anyone that was like, oh, let me run into that burning building for fun, dying, and I have none for this idiot either.
Right.
He won't fall off. It'll be okay.
Oh no, it was Jacob outside.
Oh, okay, I got you. So, one night she told Jim that she couldn't sleep. She's been having trouble sleeping. She just couldn't sleep. She's chain smoking in the kitchen. She refuses Jim's request to come to bed. She's like, no, I'm just not going to bed. Jim goes to bed. The next morning, Jim found himself a single parent. April had just left. A few days later, she called to tell him that she wasn't coming back. No more responsibility for April. That's what she was like. I'm free.
Right?
I'm free. But Jim soon moved out with the kids, and none of them had a relationship with April again, and fair enough, bruh. Fair enough. She eventually got heavy into drugs before her death, and never again mentioned Henry while she drew breath. Now, Ed was able to find some tenants, but the activity made it impossible for him to keep them. And then he met and hired a realtor named Ron. Ron told him that he could sell both homes, this one and the one that Ed had bought, the haunted house and the one that Ed was currently living in. He could sell both of them and get Ed enough money to buy a home in the suburbs. A small home, but a home. One that would fit his needs. And Ed was like, all right, well, if you're going to do that, I need to tell you about the house. And he tells Ron all this stuff that happened in the house. And Ron was like, whoa, you ain't got to even sell me. I'll buy it. Ron was like, my wife loves this stuff. I'll buy it. And Ed was like, how much? And he got significantly less than what he was asking for, because like, I don't even care. Take it. Take the home. Get it out of my hands.
I think even if I did love that stuff, like, I don't want to live in it.
Well, he was like, I want to. Now, the funny thing is, a couple years later, Ed's like, I wonder how that's going. So he tries to get in contact with Ron through his business, finds out, oh, the business is gone. It dissolved. It did terrible. And then he's like, okay, but like Ron's still living at. Ron no longer lives at the house, and neither does his wife, because they got divorced. And he moved right on out of Chicago, and nobody knew where he went.
Interesting.
So, looks like the house had another victim. However, now the Beckers claim to have, to this day, the ability to walk into a home and just sense if it is haunted. And that's the end of their story. What did you think of the whole thing? As a whole, the story?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And they weren't, like, stupid.
No, they weren't. They weren't Lynn.
Yeah.
They were not
exactly
Lynn.
what I was
They were
thinking
not.
about. They were not like her.
No, they weren't. There was no. There was no indication that there was anything wrong with the home,
Yeah.
except for the. I think the crazy woman probably would have given me pause, especially when they were like, she's got to stay for 90 days. I would have been like, no.
Well, it also depends on where you live. Like, I feel like in Winchester, I live near some interesting people.
She wasn't interesting. She was deranged. She came up and said,
Well,
why would you move all of my furniture in my apartment? He's cold.
he scared me. I would just assume she was on drugs, and I just have to deal with her for 90 days, and then she's gone.
Oh, all right. Well, that's fair.
So even that, I wouldn't necessarily. It would be annoying, but I wouldn't think anything else.
What's going on?
Yeah.
So that is our episode, ladies and gentlemen. I hope it thrilled you a little. I hope it chilled you a little. I need you to remember to curl up them feet, because William Dole Davis is not on the payroll, and Salty Garlic is salty hungry. She is looking for them rough heels.
That's why I got shoes on.
That's why we always wear shoes at the house. Also, if you don't mind, to check out the comic series Outbreaks, the link to the Kickstarter will be in the description. He's the guy that is the ad for the middle of this episode. Check him out. His stories are really good. It's a zombie series, but it's a zombie anthology series, so every 3 issues you're getting a new story. It's really fun. He's gearing up towards a zombie cult, apocalyptic cult, where they believe they are the fulfillment of the Revelation prophecy of the dead rising. They're like, it's us. So it's fun. I'm if you're having any inclination of, and he has a bunch of stuff that if you back the Kickstarter, he puts a bunch of like content, not just the comic, but like he has trading cards of the characters and things. It's fun. So oh, okay. So check that out. Check out Allison Gunn's book Nowhere. That is very important to us that you check that out, because she is awesome. Her trailer is at the beginning of this episode before
And the
we start.
book is so awesome.
The book
Alex
is
needs to finish it so we can talk about it.
I'm going to try and finish it this week. Once I get this next episode done, which I am going to announce right here, is a sequel to our very first recorded episode. Now, it doesn't show up in the lineup as the first episode in our Spotify, and I don't know why. But it is a sequel in spirit only. Like it's sort of like how some movies are one thing, and then you have another movie that says it's a sequel, but it's a different type of story. It just kind of takes place in the same area. That's what this is. We have Demons in Arkansas 2.
Arkansas.
It's pronounced Arkansas. I can't wait. So, thank you for listening. Curl up your feet. And as always, bye!
Bye.